can type your question into the lower right-hand corner in the chat window, and we will answer it during the question portion of the agenda. We will also take a few minutes to hear from folks who have called in over the phone. I'm going to start with a brief introduction of Rights and Democracy for those who may not be familiar with the scope of our work. We are a bi-state grassroots member-led organization, and we work in both Vermont and New Hampshire to build power to impact local and statewide policy and bring people into our democratic process. We got started up in 2015 organizing around a multi-issue agenda that puts the needs of everyday Vermonters first and builds a vibrant democracy. We at RAD subscribe to the idea of whole movement organizing, meaning that there are many tools available for us to create change, and we strive to use all of them. Our structure allows us to educate people about the challenges facing our communities and about how they can create change. We directly influence legislation by lobbying and creating a direct connection between the State House and our membership to take action and organize at key moments. And we engage in the electoral process by endorsing and supporting candidates who share our values and a vision for Vermont that works for all of us. So in doing this, we are organizing around the state and regional teams and around key issues to build the kind of independent political power that's going to allow us to champion our agenda and create lasting systemic change. Our Raise Up Vermont campaign this year is really focused on winning a $15 an hour wage and family and medical leave insurance for all Vermonters as a step to building economic equality in our state. We co-lead the Raise the Wage Coalition, which launched in 2016 as one of over 30 partner organizations working together to pass legislation that would make a livable wage law by 2024. So it's really important that lawmakers working on this bill hear from their constituents and not just special interests, and that we're having conversations as organizers with people across the state about how poverty and inadequate wages impact their day-to-day lives. We also believe that folks should have access to paid time off so that people don't have to choose between taking time to bond with their child and recover from birth or caring for a sick family member and a paycheck. So we have been working on legislation to implement a paid family leave program in Vermont. So you will hear more about these legislative fights over the course of the call, but for now I'd like to welcome James Haslam to talk about RAD's accomplishments over the past year. Take it away, James.
All right, I think I'm unmuted now.
You are unmuted, yes.
Awesome, okay. Well, good night, everyone. Thank you so much for everyone who's joining this call on a beautiful Sunday where we finally got some more sunshine. It's super exciting to think about how far we've come and what we're poised to do as an organization. And everyone on the call, you should all consider yourselves leaders and builders, because it's calls like these where we get together and figure out how to take action together to make change together. I just wanted to, there's been a bunch of people that have been getting involved in Rights and Democracy since we started. It's interesting as we get through the tail end of this legislative session. About 3 years ago, right now, was kind of the precursor to when folks were starting to come together to form this organization. There was Isaac and some other folks that were getting involved, had the opportunity to work on some legislative issues. We're fighting for election day voter registration, and also started to work on paid sick days. In 2016, we won that. Our official launch, Elise, helped us get going in the spring of 2016, and since then, we've been able to have members across Vermont and New Hampshire not only get involved in the organization, but start building, as Elise was saying, local chapters and teams that can take action together. And places like Bennington County and Monadnock region of New Hampshire have like full-fledged chapters, and then there's strong organizing committees now in Chittenden County, Addison County, new groups getting together in the Upper Valley and Washington County and Franklin County, all over the place, Northeast Kingdom. So it's a really exciting time. Just wanted to, help, think about these final weeks of how we are going to take action together, and the things that we're going to dig into on this call. Partly, one of the pieces that has been really exciting to us is that there's been some folks that have been involved for a long time, but also a number of folks that have been getting involved recently. We've had some new additions to our team, and I mentioned Isaac. Isaac was one of the first people that we had on staff building the organization, and he just took an assignment to go be the organizing director in New Hampshire, as many folks know. It's been great to have Elise come back on the team. Some folks might remember, Elise helped us launch, but then has helped build the organization in every way. But then this past December took a leave to help run Karina Driscoll's campaign for mayor. So it's been very excited to have Elise come back in this role of political engagement coordinator and take on a lot of the duties that Isaac had. Elise works really closely with our whole organizing team. Another, newer member of the team is Kate Logan, who started this about the same time Elise was taking the lead in December. Kate comes over from our board and was a strong member and leader of the organization before becoming our director of programming and policy. We also have been able to add this winter another longtime organizer and supporter of rights and democracy, Johanna de Graffenried, who is actually going to be joining our team longer term as the program director for our jobs, justice, and climate campaigns. But because of the timing with these struggles happening that Elise was mentioning, that she has been helping work on the organizing team, helping hold down a lot of the organizing in the Northeast Kingdom for the fights for minimum wage and our Raise Up Vermont fight that includes the family medical leave bill. We are super thrilled to be able to have a dynamite organizing team, but it's an organizational model that requires us having a people-powered movement where all of us do our part, where everyone can do it, so our staff can help support leaders like yourselves, and then everybody who wants to figure out how to take action to create change together. We think of this approach as a whole movement organizing approach, that there's not, it's not just about advocating for legislation. We believe that's critical. There's fights that happen every legislative session, and a lot of times, working class and regular folks aren't part of those discussions. Those are discussions that happen with paid lobbyists and the corporations that often have the ears of lawmakers. So we think that it's critical for organizations like us to be part of that. And we are a multi-issue organization. We'll support in solidarity a lot of different issues, but in certain areas we take a leadership role and we work, in a deeper way, as we have on raising the minimum wage and being a big part of the Paid Family Medical Leave Coalition, and really take a lot of responsibilities in those coalitions to help move those on. That is a kind of a season of our work, is when we're doing a lot of things where we're actually trying to win things. And right now we're coming to the tail end of a biennium. So, in Vermont, we have 2-year bienniums. We have an election in even years, happens in the fall, and then the next 2 years before the next election, the legislators from January to May will have 2 seasons of a legislative session where they make laws, and then they start it all over again the following session. So we're at the end of that process, and so it is our window of opportunity to pass these bills and to support some of the other efforts that are underway, and then as a whole movement approach, we then just hit the ground running after the legislative session, starting getting ready for the next election, and getting ready to try to impact that with the same kind of issues and agenda items that we've been working on since we started. We believe strongly that all of the issues that we're fighting, this is another way, we're a multi-issue organization, and that means that economic justice is deeply tied to racial justice and gender justice and environmental justice, healthcare justice, housing justice. So all of these struggles are deeply tied together, and the election is the one place that we can actually impact it all at once. It's so critical for us to be doing this right now in this historical moment in this country. We only have to look at what happened after the 2016 election to see how the opposite thing can happen to us, where the results of an election can, attack everything that we care about. From you name it, we care about it, it's under attack. Women's rights, immigrant rights, the environment, the EPA is being decimated. Even science is being unraveled. Work of decades is being unraveled right now, and that happened because of an election. So we think it was bad before the election. So what we need to do is basically the opposite of what happened there. There were some bright spots here in Vermont. Rights and democracy helped. Some significant victories, like Lieutenant Governor David Zuckerman winning, and some other great folks, champions in the House. But we have a lot of work to do. So as we get ready to throw down in these final 2 weeks, 3 weeks of this legislative session, then we just keep going and keep organizing and hit as hard as we can to impact the elections in the fall, and then get ready for the next season, in 2019, where we can keep moving forward and keep pushing for anything that we didn't win this year, and then keep pushing ahead. So that's a big part of our model. We feel like democracy is something that is 365 days a year, year after year, and it's so excited to be building this with all of you. So with that, I'm turning it over to Kate Logan, who can talk about more details of the struggles happening right now. Thanks so much.
Okay, somebody unmuted me. Thank you for whoever did that. Hi, I'm Kate Logan. I'm Director of Programming and Policy for Rights and Democracy, and I'm really thankful for you all being here tonight. And thanks, James, for that intro. I really appreciate it to set up the much larger context. I think that context is really important as we're talking about the legislative session this year, because we had a pretty serious setback nationally and even as a state in 2016 with, the Republicans having control over, all of Congress, having the executive branch, now stacking the judiciary. And so we need to be part of a national movement that is doing the same work that Rights and Democracy is doing in every state to rebuild a constituency, rebuild democracy from the ground up, because we see people becoming really disaffected by, I guess, what you would call elite democratic, sort of centrist, more conservative economic policy, when the majority of Americans routinely express interest in, increasing our quality of life for people who are lower and middle income. And we certainly have the economic capacity to do that. Our economy has grown considerably just over the last 40 years, but people's wages have stagnated in the middle income and lower income segments of our population. And other countries have gone a different direction, and they're experiencing the same thing. I actually just came back from a constituent meeting in Colchester. Several folks came out to talk with their representatives. A Republican, Pat Brennan, and Democrat Maureen Dakin, and we were there talking about the legislative fights that Rights and Democracy is really engaged in right now in the legislature. And you can see the tamping down of a willingness to really do anything to help people who actually need help in our legislature. The bigger context for that in Vermont right now, which is where we need to be focusing our efforts as part of a national strategy for taking our country back, because of the governor that we have right now, who has said that he wants a level state budget and no new taxes and no new fees. That means that every policy that we might want to bring forward right now that would require any expansion of state spending or any increase in taxes on the wealthiest Vermonters whose effective tax rate is considerably lower. Like once you add up sales tax and fees, everybody pays the same fees to get their car inspected every year and so on. The effective tax rate for the wealthiest Vermonters is several percentage points lower than middle income Vermonters, and is even less than lowest income Vermonters as a percentage of income. And yet we're in a position where the governor won't allow any new taxes or won't even increase state budgets. So that's the larger political context that we're in right now. You see it reflected in legislators sort of, being really hesitant to take decisive action on improving people's quality of lives, and we know that it needs to happen. So the two big bills that Rights and Democracy has been fighting for in this biennium are raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour by 2024, and creating a paid family and medical leave insurance program for all working Vermonters. We're at the very tail end of those fights. The legislative session is supposed to end in just a couple of weeks. The minimum wage bill is in House General. Once it gets passed out, it will go to House Appropriations. If it gets passed out of Appropriations, it'll go to the House floor for a vote. And it's already passed the Senate. Paid family and medical leave insurance passed the House last year. It's coming out of the Senate Economic Development Committee, and then we'll go to the Senate. We kind of expect both bills to pass, and then we expect them to go to our governor, and we expect him to veto them. So one of the things that we were asking Representatives Dakin and Brennan tonight was if they would be willing to vote in favor of these policies in order to reject the veto if it comes back to them. And one of the things that they said that was really interesting, and I think is exactly the reason why Rights and Democracy exists, is that they are not hearing from their constituents on these issues. Representative Brennan in particular, who, as I mentioned, is a Republican, was actually considerably open-minded to having a conversation about increasing the minimum wage. He listened really openly to the economic arguments in favor of it. He voted no on paid family and medical leave insurance when it came to him last time, but admits that he didn't read the bill very carefully when he voted on it, and he's willing to look at it again. But what they both said was that they just haven't been hearing from their constituents about these economic issues. They said when the gun legislation was going through, Representative Brennan said he got 138 phone calls from constituents. And Representative Dakin said the exact same thing. And they also both said, if you really want these votes to pass, if you want these bills to pass, you're also going to need people to be calling the governor. And so we're in that point now in this legislative session where we really need, that people believe that these are the right things to do. The town meeting day survey showed that well over 60% of Vermonters both think we should raise the minimum wage and think we should have paid family and medical leave insurance. Our own results from the field, I would say that in the places where I've been canvassing personally, I'm getting about a 90% sign-on rate to our petition. And for those we're surveying as part of our community survey project, 100% of the people that I have surveyed have said that they agree that we should have paid family and medical leave insurance and a livable wage. So these are popular policies, but apparently our legislators aren't hearing from their constituents, and our governor isn't hearing from folks. So I think in the larger context of Vermont politics, we have an opportunity to make Vermont as great a place as it possibly can be. We know other countries like Iceland have 500,000 folks in them, and they've instituted progressive policies that have really markedly increased the quality of life of the people who live in Iceland. And we can do the same thing here, but our legislators are going to need to hear from us. And so for tonight, I'd just like to make a few asks of the people who are on the call. And I think the first one is simple. I would love to hear if everybody who's joining us tonight is willing to contact their legislators to let them know that you support raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour by 2024 and instituting a paid family and medical insurance program in Vermont. And also let me know if you have any questions, but I'd love to hear if you're willing to do that.
Are we unmuted?
I can hear you.
Well, my thought was when you talked about this guy, Brennan,
Yeah.
I was wondering whether Rad sent people into his district to go door to door or to flyer to get people in his district to call in favor of it.
Yeah, so I want to just remind folks that we are going to have about 15 minutes of Q&A at the end of the agenda starting at 7:45. So if you could just hold on to questions, thank you for that. We will address those in about 15 minutes.
Thanks, Elise. But yes, the short answer to your question is yes. and yeah, that's what we've been doing. But I'd love to hear from folks on the phone if you're willing to do that yourselves.
I don't know whether I should be waiting for the end, the 15 minutes, or talking now.
Oh, well, you can just say, yes, you're willing to call your legislator.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Great. And who is that?
Well, I've got 3 in Brattleboro that I call Valerie Stewart, Molly Burke, and Tristan Tolino, all of whom I assume will support this bill.
Great.
We'll support both of them.
Great. Thank you. Anybody else on the call who's willing to do that with their own legislators?
Hi, this is Kate LaRose calling from St. Albans.
Hi, Kate.
Hi. I am definitely willing to give it a go with Kathy and Corey.
Thank you. That is awesome. Anybody else want to jump in real quick?
This is Michael McFarland from Atlanta, Georgia, and I definitely believe that the minimum wage has been flat for too long in multiple states and that it should be raised. So I will be in contact and I support this.
Great. Thank you so much. I've got a couple more things that we want to ask folks to do in this legislative session. So I'll just go ahead and move on, and hopefully we'll hear from more of you later on in the call. Another thing that we can do is multiply our effort, not just by calling legislators ourselves, but phone banking our neighbors, just giving them a call, letting them know what's going on in the State House. A lot of folks just don't know. I think it's hard to know what's going on. Just even getting on the legislative website is confusing. And the news isn't always helpful, and especially depending on the way that you get your news. So one thing we can do is we have a really large list throughout the state. We can help you do a phone bank for neighbors. You can call folks you know. You can call people who are Rights and Democracy members and ask them to call their legislators. So I'd love to hear a couple people sign up to do a phone bank, and we'll be following up with you in order to set that up. Could anybody dedicate 2 or 3 hours to doing that sometime in the next couple of weeks? I'm not hearing any takers. How about the fellow down in Brattleboro? Is that something you'd be willing to do?
I do make some calls once in a while for other reasons, for the Progressive Party, and it's so I work on these issues.
Sure.
Anyway, and and I do talk a lot about it here, and I will call my reps here, and I will include some words about these two bills in particular, which you didn't actually give the numbers for.
Sure. So S40 is the minimum wage bill, and H196 is the paid family and medical leave insurance bill.
Okay.
And one more, sounds like we're not getting a bunch of volunteers to phone bank, but please consider it and reach out to one of the organizers at Rights and Democracy if you're willing to help out, and we'll get it all set up for you. One, you can reach out to Emma, who will be coming up next to talk about May 1st, or you can reach out to Elise, who is hosting the call right now, and their email addresses are emma@radvt.org and Elise, ELISE, at radvt.org. And it would be a huge help to just have some extra folks on hand to make phone calls over the next couple of weeks. And now it is time for me to wrap up this section. Just please be talking to your neighbors, asking them to call legislators. We need to show legislators as much support on these important bills as we can in the next couple of weeks. And while you're at it, go ahead and give the governor a call too, and let him know that you support these as well. So thanks so much. And I'm going to turn it over to Emma now.
Thanks so much for getting on this call tonight. Looks like it's finally getting dark out, so it's not as distracting. It's like, can people hear me actually? If maybe Elise or Kate can tell me that.
Definitely can hear you. Thanks.
Awesome. My computer keeps flashing muted and then unmuted. Yeah, so I'm here to talk a little bit about one of the exciting opportunities to get involved. If phone banking isn't your style, we're having a large May 1st mobilization, and this is going to actually bring our members into the State House and all the people that we've organized through this campaign to physically show up for economic justice issues in the state, and to put pressure both on our elected officials but also on Phil Scott with just putting people in rad t-shirts with something to say into that building. And it'll be a great opportunity to meet other people working on economic justice issues in the state, get to know those who've been participating in the Raise the Wage Coalition for the last 2 years, and to experience what citizen lobbying can really look like. Our agenda starts at 10 a.m. We'll be meeting in the pavilion. We're going to have coffee and refreshments, and then we're going to do a really great lobbying training, which I'm really excited for people to participate in, and that's going to be with RAD staff. And when we're doing that, we'll also have a significant time to do question and answer about both paid family and medical leave insurance and raising the wage to $15 an hour. So a good chance to get all your questions out there and go into the building really prepared to advocate for these issues. After that, we'll transition into the building, and we're going to have a series of events. There's a lot of time built into the schedule to find your legislators, to get a tour of the building. But we'll also be doing a press conference with the Raise the Wage Coalition, and then also a petition drop of the hundreds of signatures we've gathered with people who support this campaign. After that, we'll head back into the pavilion, and there'll be more chances for learning and education and discussion as we head into panel presentations with a lot of time for question and answer on how workers' rights are human rights. So we'll be hearing from advocates who work on other issues across the state about how things like the state budget, et cetera, infringe upon workers' rights and what we can do to organize here in Vermont. It's going to be a jam-packed day, but lots of time in the agenda to really learn and grow and experience what it's like to be in the State House. If you haven't been before, this is an amazing opportunity to come up with a couple of friends, get inside the building, hang out with RAD staffers who spend a lot of time up there, and get really knee-deep in democracy. If you have spent a lot of time in the building, we need you. Come spend time with us. We need everybody advocating for this. Immediate way to get involved is that you can go online to our website, www.radvt.org, and look at our events page, and you'll find the registration link. We're providing lunch for everybody who can be there for the whole day, so it's really important to register so we can get a head count. And then you can also send that link to your friends and tell your friends about this event. You can reach out to me. My email address, as mentioned earlier, is emma@radvt.org. And I can send you the poster. I can send you the registration link. I can talk to your friends about this. So if you want to take on the role of being carpool captain of your community, that'd be a great way to just start organizing for this event, which is right around the corner. Again, this is May 1st. That's a Tuesday. We'll be starting around 10 a.m. and we'll be wrapping up around 4 p.m. If you can only come for half of the day, we'll take that too. A nice time to show up would be the press conference, which is happening at 1 p.m. And after we're finished with that, and we've done a lot of specific targeting around the economic justice issues, there's going to be a State House lawn rally that's being anchored by the Human Rights Council of Vermont, which Rights and Democracy is a part of. And that's going to be a more intersectional celebration of International Workers' Day and May 1st, which is a historic labor holiday. And we'll be talking about workers' rights continuing, but also some of the other justice issues that are happening in the State House and in our communities. And there'll be music and poetry and a great time to rally. So the rally starts at 4:30 p.m. and goes until about 6. So again, big jam-packed day, lots of bang for your buck. Awesome thing to bring your friends to, great way to start getting engaged in Rights and Democracy's work, or to keep advocating and put a lot of pressure for these bills that we need right at this end of the legislative session. Again, you can find the registration for that link either on Facebook, Workers' Rights Day, or at www.radvt.org/workers_rights_day. Looking forward to seeing you all there. Thanks so much.
Great. Thank you so much, Emma, for that update. Next, we are going to go to Chuck.
Thanks, Elise, and thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. If you're anything like me, you're probably pretty frustrated with politics as usual. And looking at the traditional political system, it seems like it's been failing us, and it's been failing us for some time. About 2 years ago, I became aware of Rights and Democracy and was so impressed with the things that they were doing just as a young fledgling organization, what they were accomplishing, how they were building an organization, how they were mobilizing people, how they were mobilizing around important issues that mattered to me. and to matter to people like me who are friends and we're interested in seeing a real fight for justice, economic justice, racial justice, gender justice, environmental, housing, and healthcare. I'm just so proud to be a new member of Rights and Democracy and to be on the staff as well. And it's so important. Rights and Democracy, as I look at them, they're the real deal. They're really accomplishing things. They're organizing people, they're organizing organizations, and they're moving the debate. They're moving the dialogue. They're shifting what's possible. They're focusing on issues, and they're focusing on elected officials, recruiting, training, supporting, and holding accountable elected officials that will be accountable to the people who elect them. And so if you're like me, I hope you'll say, hey, this is an organization I want to be a member of. This is an organization I want to be involved in. This is the organization I want to support. So I invite all of you and to pass on to your friends and to your neighbors knowledge about Rights and Democracy. Become a member, attend our activities, call your legislators, testify, come to rallies, be part of these kind of conversations. We need your membership. We can accomplish so much together, and we need your help to be able to accomplish our shared goals and objectives. So I urge you to become a member. I urge you to support us both financially and with your personal involvement. So thank you. Lisa, let me turn it back over to you.
Great, thank you for that, Chuck. So it is nearly 7:45, and so we're going to open it up to questions from our members and a bit of a discussion. We have not had any questions come in via Zoom chat, so what I'm going to do is just unmute everyone, and we can take questions that way. Let's just be respectful of others on the call and as quiet as possible during this period where we are going to be unmuted and taking questions. So folks are unmuted now. What I would like to do is just get an idea of who would like to ask something. So if you have a question, could you just give me your name?
Spoon.
Thank you, Spoon.
Ron?
Ron?
Yes.
Great, thanks, Ron.
Jesse.
Jesse? Okay. Anybody else have a question? Great. So if something comes up during the next couple of minutes of discussion, feel free to just shout out your name as well. So we will start with Spoon, and I just want to remind folks to just be as quiet as possible, and then also all of the folks you've heard from over the course of this call will be available to answer any questions that you may have. So Spoon, what's your question?
In what way is RAD aligning, if at all, with the Poor People's Campaign?
Great. I think Kate would be a good person to take this question. Kate, if you would like. Or Emma, anyone who's involved with the...
Hi, Spoon. This is Emma Schoenberg talking. And as I mentioned, I'm the lead organizer at RAD, so I've been talking to a lot of our members who are interested in engaging with the Poor People's Campaign. Officially, we are not in the endorsement process because as a leadership organization, there are several levels of leadership that we have to have that conversation with. Namely our leadership committee, which is a statewide network of folks who have been volunteering with Rights and Democracy over the past generally 2 years. And so we have not met yet to discuss any sort of official alignment or endorsement. with the Poor People's Campaign. However, it's pretty obvious that they are taking a broad approach to organizing with their 4 pillars of justice. That's militarism, ecological devastation, poverty, and racial justice. Those are the 4 challenges they're trying to attack. And so while that lines up very well with the Rights and Democracy mission, there is no official endorsement, but many of our members have cross-pollinated and have expressed enthusiasm for the campaign. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing that conversation evolve. That's a great question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And that is right. As Emma said, that is still a decision that's being made at the leadership level of the organization. So thank you. Okay. Next up is Ron.
Yeah, good evening. Hope you can hear me. This is Ron in Rutland, and I haven't been involved much in rights and democracy lately, but I've been focusing more locally. I'm involved with NAACP, and my church has had a series of nonviolence trainings starting on Martin Luther King Day. And the UCC Church Southwest Association, which is the southwest part of the state, the ministers have started doing some programs. There's a program that just started last week with Glenn Caddy, I believe. He's doing a training on nonviolence. So I'm interested in going on the May 1st. But what I'm interested in is see if there's a way that maybe our group can connect with other like church-related groups or nonviolence-related groups in the state, you know, so we can kind of connect with them. If you have any contacts or whatever that you can maybe put me in touch with, then maybe if we show up on May 1st, we can kind of meet each other and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that sounds great. Ron, are you familiar at all with Vermont Interfaith Action?
Yeah, I've been to their, I actually met Isaac, is it Isaac Grimm?
Yes, Isaac is their former political engagement director at RAD.
Right, I met him there last summer. Our church is not directly involved with that for various reasons, but I sort of get their emails and that kind of thing. So that's one area I know, but I'm looking more specifically if anybody's doing that training, because this training is leading up to some protests that are going to happen in Washington in the fall. I don't know if you heard of that Campaign Nonviolence, is John Deere. So if you know anything about that or whatever, can connect me with anybody on that, that would be good.
Great. And we have your email, right, Ron?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm happy to follow up with you about that and any that I have.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
All right. Thanks.
So next up, we've got Jesse.
Okay. So I live across from Bellows Falls. I started a recovery coach movement there because my main concern is healthcare.
Yep.
But I have for a couple of years now lived across the river. It's a little ticklish, not because I'm no longer involved in Bellows Falls, but I tried to get a house meeting over there to call Representative Trieber and try to press him on the minimum wage, both bills really. My question is why that hasn't come up since he's on the committee, and a particularly good person to work with, or at least he doesn't really speak forthrightly. He leads you to think that he's in favor of things, and then so it really needs to be more than my comment or a couple of single people contacting him. I think it would be great to have a concerted effort to persuade him. Matt Trieber is a nice guy, but as I said, you can't really tell what he's thinking.
Yep.
I coordinated this with Isaac before he moved, but he's come down to see us. I'm involved with MPA since before the annual meeting in Hanover. So MPA in Keene is quite active, and it's getting more of my attention. I'd be really happy, though, if you have some other people to that I don't have to persuade to work with Matt Trieber. I got some blowback. Nobody's really.
This is Spoon. I wonder if I may interrupt for a minute. I have one more question, so as soon as you finish, maybe I can slip that in.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, sure, why not? There is a small business blowback in Bellows Falls, where Matt Trieber is from, because they're well, I think you know the drill as far as how they're resisting this minimum wage increase.
Yes.
And I didn't really have the talking points to counter. So it's another reason why, if we could create either a house meeting or some other group, I think you'd agree that approaching Matt Trieber would be, yeah. And I'd be happy to go down and do a phone bank with Spoon. So I know folks in Brattleboro.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your question, Jesse. That is very important. It sounds like Emma is interested in answering your question, but I will agree that Matt Trieber is, vice chair of the Appropriations Committee, where the bill is going next. And so all those folks, right, need to be targets. So Emma, I'll pass it over to you to talk about how we are working to put pressure on the folks on the Appropriations Committee.
Hi, Jesse. First of all, thank you so much. That's an excellent question and shows that you have a lot of knowledge about how this works, basically. Across the state, we've been coordinating, as Kate mentioned earlier, these really high-level but casual conversations with legislators from their constituents to tease out what their concerns are and how we can answer them, because fear keeps people from taking action and lack of knowledge. And so what we can do as an organization, as advocates, is to help support our legislators in making the right decision, and also answer any questions that they might be too busy or have too much opposition to really sit down and dive into, because some of the complexity around raising the wage is real, and it's very helpful to have these one-on-one conversations. And this is why we organize in collectives, because Jesse, I know it's probably difficult for you to know that that's your community and feel like you're alone down there. And so I'd love to just, in the next day or two, hop on the phone and talk about the people that I know in that area, because already a few are coming to mind, and then maybe we can create one of those constituent meetings on the phone together.
All right, good.
Excellent. Jesse, my number is 802-793-8851. Anyone else can take that. Emma@radvt.org. Please shoot me an email. I have yours, actually, because I remember meeting at our membership assembly. And
793.
Yep, 8851.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Perfect. And then we can get that going for the next couple of weeks. I'd love to talk about what we can have with Matt Trieber.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Emma. And thank you, Jesse. Okay, I want to throw it back to Spoon.
Yeah, my question is there somebody online that can talk about RAD's relationship with the Human Rights Council and what is going on there now?
Sure.
That would also be Emma.
Yes, this would also be Emma, and a great opportunity to talk about the May Day rally as well that's being organized by the Human Rights Council.
Great. Spoon, I know that you've been a longtime member of the Worker Center, who's also a member of the Human Rights Council. For those on the call that don't know, that's about 20 membership-based organizations working on human rights issues. So they span the justice scene, from disability rights to economic justice to labor to racial justice. And there's a lot of amazing collective power in that room. Right now, RAD has been a very active participant on it. I am currently our staff liaison, and if there's a Rights and Democracy member that would like more access to the Human Rights Council, again, please reach out to me, because it's a good group of people. We meet once a month and we talk about the issues that each one of us are working on, and that's how we end up with really collaborative intersectional events like the May 1st rally that I mentioned earlier. When we realized that May 1st was a great time to start really putting pressure on the governor around economic justice issues, we wanted to recognize that this is a huge day for labor and for all the other people on the Human Rights Council. So as liaison on that committee, started planning with other folks like Will Lambeck from Migrant Justice and Nathan Suter from the Peace and Justice Center, you know, other people that sit on this council, to start planning this May Day rally that starts at 4:30, so that the two events don't clash, but in fact powerfully build for each other. And so it's an exciting opportunity to see what the community of social justice can look like here in Vermont. Again, that's a great question. The Human Rights Council has a lot of work to do to keep growing and to keep building, but it's a great group of folks that I've really enjoyed working with.
Thank you, Emma. And thank you, Spoon.
Yep.
We've got about a minute left if anyone has any questions that they'd like to ask of Kate, Emma, or I, or Chuck before we hop off for the evening.
Well, I have one more. Is there anything happening in terms of unifying all of the organizations in the state?
Sure. So I guess I'll just take this one. I think that, you know, as we've talked about, you know, Rights and Democracy is a multi-issue, multi-tactical organization. And what's really key here is the fact that we are working in partnerships with other organizations statewide. So I'm not sure, you know, like what you mean by unifying, but I will say that there is a very concerted effort to make sure that we are working with other groups, that we're breaking down issue silos, and that we are organizing across a multi-issue agenda.
What I was angling for specifically was whether there has been any movement towards a single organization to which most or all the money would go, that there might be a single director, a single, in other words, marshal all of whatever strength there is, whatever resources there are in the state.
Well, I would say, as the director of community engagement, I would say that RAD would be that organization, and I would encourage you to contribute to Rights and Democracy.
Would every other organization say that RAD is that organization?
Well, I'm pretty certain each organization might have their own opinion, but we are certainly organizing and working with partners and providing leverage to each of the organizations so that our shared goals can be realized.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to echo what Chuck just said too. You know, like Vermont has the most like nonprofits per population per capita, like in the entire country. So I think it is really important that, you know, not codifying it under one organization, but the fact that we're all working together, because we do have a lot of work to do. There are a lot of issues that other organizations who are doing great work are championing. And so we really just need to be lifting each other up and building power for a progressive agenda. And we do that by working with other organizations. And that's a very important and key component to our work. So thank you for the question. So it's 8 p.m. So we are going to close this out. And I want to thank you all again for being a part of our call this evening. We are going to be sending a follow-up email to folks who registered with all of the information that we covered tonight and links and ways that you can be involved. But again, please check out our website at radvt.org to register for Workers' Rights Day on May 1st. And for further information about how to contact your legislators to urge them to support the issues covered this evening. Thank you for all of your support and have a great rest of your night.
Okay, thanks for doing the call, and I'll probably see you May 1st.
Great, thank you.
Yep, bye.
Bye,
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.